Some debts ain't measured in gold. They ain't measured in gratitude. They're paid in ways you just can't see coming. When Silas Brennan spotted the blood trail cutting through the alkali flats that morning, he had two choices: ride past like any sensible man would, or follow it into whatever hell waited at the end. He chose wrong. He found two Apache women. One was bleeding into the sand, her life pumping out onto the white dust. The other stood over her. She held a knife, and her eyes promised a slow death to anyone who came one step closer. Silas, he offered him food. He offered him water. He thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was saving a life. But here's the thing about doing the right thing. It ain't always the smart thing, because 700 warriors don't surround a man's ranch at dawn because he did something right. They come because he did something unforgivable. And what Silas didn't know about tribal law? Well, it was going to either get him killed or transform him into something he'd never, ever imagined. The answer was already riding hard toward his ranch, riding while the wounded sister drank weak-like from his canteen. The desert had been quiet for 3 days before Silas found him. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before the world splits wide open. He'd been checking his northern fence line, the line that bordered territory that didn't belong to him, didn't really belong to anyone with papers anyway. The land out here, it had its own rules, and the people who lived by 'em didn't need a single piece of paper to prove they owned it. They proved it with blood. The blood appeared first as just dark spots on pale stone. Then it became a dragon smear, a smear that told a story Silas understood, even though he didn't want to. Someone was hurt bad. Someone was running, and someone was following. His horse, it balked when the wind shifted. It caught a scent on the air that made its nostrils flare wide, the smell of copper, the smell of fear. Silas urged the animal forward anyway. He followed the trail as it wound between rust-colored boulders that looked like they'd been standing there since the world was born. The sun just kept climbing. It turned the air into something you had to chew. Sweat ran a river down his spine. His cotton shirt stuck to his skin like a second layer he didn't ask for. That's when he saw her. The first sister. She was on the ground, propped against a rock face that offered the only shade for miles. Her skin glistened with fever sweat. A wound in her side leaked a slow, steady red onto buckskin that had been tanned before the blood soaked through. Dark hair hung in wet strands across a face that was young, maybe early 20s, a face that would have been striking if it wasn't twisted up in pure agony. But it was the second sister. The second sister is the one that froze Silas right in his saddle. She stood between him and the wounded woman, and even from 30 feet away, Silas could see she was different. She was tall, taller than most men he knew. Her shoulders spoke of a strength that didn't come from just living. It came from fighting. Her bearing commanded the desert itself, without her saying a single word. Her clothing was similar to her sister's, but it bore markings Silas didn't recognize. Patterns that looked like they meant something, like a map of a place you didn't ever want to go. The knife in her hand caught the sunlight, and it looked like a promise. "Go back," she said. Her voice carried across the distance, accented but perfectly clear. "This is not your concern." Silas stayed mounted. He kept his hands visible, empty. "The bleeding won't stop on its own." "I said go back." The wounded sister, she made a sound, something between a gasp and a moan. Her eyes rolled back, showing the whites. Her breathing came shallow, rapid. The kind of breathing that comes right before the shock takes over. The kind of breathing that comes before the end. "She's dying," Silas said. He kept his voice quiet. "That is not your concern." The tall sister's knuckles, they were white around that knife handle. Silas looked past her, to the wounded woman. Then he looked back to the standing sister's face, and he saw it. Beneath the threat, beneath the hate. He saw something he recognized, 'cause he'd felt it himself once. A long, long time ago. It was terror. Terror disguised as aggression. The fear of watching someone you love slip away right in front of you. The fear of standing there completely powerless. He dismounted, slow, keeping every movement deliberate. Easy to read. His canteen hung from his saddle horn, next to it a leather pouch, dried meat, hard bread. The kind of supplies a man brings when he's checking fence lines far from home. "I'm going to reach for my canteen," Silas said. "Just water, nothing else." "Come closer," the tall sister hissed, "and I will open your throat. Then you'll have two bodies instead of one." The words just hung there, hung in the superheated air between them. The wounded sister made that sound again, weaker this time. A trickle of blood ran from the corner of her mouth. Silas stepped forward anyway. The tall sister's knife hand tensed, but she didn't strike. Another step, then another. He was close enough now. Close enough to see the wounded woman's pulse, fluttering in her neck like a trapped bird. Close enough to see the tall sister's face was slick with sweat. Sweat that had nothing to do with the heat. "Your name," the tall sister demanded. The knife was still raised. Silas Brennan." "Why? Why would you help us?" "Because she's dying," Silas repeated. "And because I've been where you are." He held out the canteen. One heartbeat. 2. 3. Nothing moved, except the blood still seeping from the woman's side. Then, the tall sister's free hand shot out, snatched the canteen with a speed that was too fast to track. She kept the knife pointed right at Silas's heart while she knelt beside her sister. She pressed the canteen to pale lips. The wounded woman drank, weakly. Water spilled down her chin. Her eyes opened, unfocused, glassy with fever. She said something, in a language Silas didn't know. The tall sister responded in the same tongue, and for just a moment her voice went soft. Silas reached, slow-like, for the leather pouch, food and cloth, for binding. Why? The question came out harsh, suspicious. Does it matter? Everything matters. The tall sister's eyes bored right into him. Every action has weight. Every choice has a consequence. Something in the way she said it. It made Silas's stomach tighten. It wasn't a statement. It was a warning. The wounded woman's head lulled to the side. The tall sister's attention snapped back to her. Pure panic in her eyes. The knife lowered. Just a fraction. She pressed her fingers against her sister's neck, counting the pulse. "She needs real help," Silas said. "More than water and dried meat." His ranch, it was 3 miles west. "I have supplies, clean bandages, whiskey for cleaning wounds. We cannot go with you. Then she'll die here." Silas kept his voice level, no cruelty in it, just fact. "Probably within the hour. That wound needs to be cleaned. It needs to be stitched. She's lost too much blood." The tall sister looked down at her sister's pale, pale face. Then she looked back at Silas. For the first time, the knife wavered. "If you betray us," she said, her voice low, "I will spend days making you regret it." "Understood. If you speak of this to anyone, I will find you." "I live alone," Silas said. "Ain't got no one to tell." The tall sister studied him. One long moment, then another, searching his face for any sign of deception. Whatever she saw there, it must have been enough. She finally lowered the knife, sheathed it at her hip. "Her name is Nishoba. I am Ka." She looked at her sister. Her jaw tightened like she was ashamed to ask. Can you carry her?" Ka's jaw set hard at the implication she might not be able to, but she just nodded. She bent and lifted her sister, with a gentleness that was surprising in a woman so strong. Nishoba cried out, a weak, thin sound. The movement pulled at her wound. Fresh blood darkened the buckskin. Silas mounted his horse. He reached down a hand. "She'll ride faster this way, steadier than carrying." Ka hesitated. Then she lifted Nishoba up, lifted her with the kind of strength that explained the markings on her clothes. Silas helped settle Neshoba in front of him. He held her steady. Ka swung up behind them, fluid, efficient, like she'd been born on horseback. They started west, toward the ranch Silas had built with his own 2 hands, defended with his own sweat, toward walls that had kept him safe from everything the frontier could throw at him. Until now. As they rode, Ka spoke. Her voice was low, tight, right against his shoulder. You should have kept riding, Silas Brennan. What you've done today, it cannot be undone. You have touched a daughter of the council, and the old laws do not forgive, even when the touch brings life, instead of death. The ranch appeared on the horizon. It was just a promise Silas wasn't sure he could keep. Weathered wood, a barn with holes in the roof, a corral fence that needed mendin', nothing fancy, nothing worth dying for. But as Neshoba's breathing grew shallower against his chest, Silas wondered if he'd just traded his life for hers, without even knowing the price. Ka dismounted before the horse even fully stopped. She reached up, helping to lower her sister. The movement made Neshoba cry out again. Blood stained Silas's shirt where she'd been pressed against him. He led them through the door, into the main room. Sunlight fell through windows he'd cut himself, into walls he'd raised alone. The table, Silas said. He cleared away the tin plate and cup from his morning meal. Ka laid Neshoba down, with a kind of care that made the giant woman seem fragile. Her hands shook as she brushed hair from her sister's face. Silas pulled supplies from the cabinet. Clean cloth, needle, thread, a bottle of whiskey he'd been saving. I need to see the wound. Ka's hand flew to her knife. You will not. She dies if I don't. Silas met her eyes. He didn't flinch. You can kill me after, but let me try first. The silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Then, Ka's hand dropped. She stepped aside. The wound was worse than Silas had hoped. A deep, ragged gash in Neshoba's side, inflamed, angry around the edges. Not a knife, not an arrow, something heavier, more brutal. He poured whiskey over his hands. He poured it over the wound. Neshoba's scream echoed off the walls. Ka grabbed her sister's hand, spoke rapidly in their language. Silas worked fast, cleaning, stitching, binding. His hands remembered the motions, remembered them from another life, another person he'd tried to save. That time, he'd failed. The memory made his fingers tremble. He forced them steady. How did this happen? He asked, threading the last stitch. Hunters, Ka said. The word was bitter, like poison. Men with rifles, men who think our scalps have value. Silas's jaw tightened. He knew the type. Men who killed for bounty, men who saw people as currency. They follow you? One does. Ka's voice was flat. The others are dead. How many? There were 5. Now there is 1. Silas tied off the final stitch. He wrapped clean cloth around Neshoba's torso. Her breathing had steadied. Just a little. A little color crept back into her lips. Not much, but enough. Enough to mean she might survive the night. This one who follows, Silas said. He washed the blood from his hands in the basin. What does he want? What all men like him want? Proof of the kill. Ka's voice dropped even lower. But he wants something else too. Recognition. He killed the daughter of our council's spiritual leader. He becomes a legend among his kind. Silas's hands stilled in the water. Daughter of the spiritual leader. Yes, both of you. Both of us. Ka's eyes fixed on him. They had weight behind them. Do you understand now, Silas Brennan? Do you understand what you've done? By touching her? No. You should have left us in the desert, Ka said. Her voice was hollow. You should have ridden away, forgotten you ever saw us. Ka moved to the window. She watched the empty land beyond. Our people, we have laws, older than this territory. Sacred laws, laws that protect those who carry our council's blood. No outsider may touch a council daughter. Not to harm, not to help, not for any reason. That's insane. That is tradition. Ka's reflection in the window glass looked haunted. When our father discovers what happened here, he will come, and he will bring everyone. Everyone? Every warrior who can ride, every bow that can be drawn, every oath that binds our people. She turned from the window, faced him. You saved my sister's life. By our law, that is still a violation of the sacred boundary. The council, they will decide your fate. Silas looked at Neshoba's pale face on his table, at the rise and fall of her chest. Would you rather I let her die? I would rather. You never found us at all. Ka's voice cracked, just on the last word. Because now you will pay for your kindness. And I cannot stop what comes. Outside, the sun began its descent. Silas moved to the window beside Ka. He stared out at the empty land that suddenly felt very, very small, somewhere out there. A hunter tracked a blood trail right to his ranch. Somewhere beyond that, a father mourned daughters he thought were dead. How long? Silas asked. His voice was quiet. The hunter? He'll be here by morning. Our people? Ka paused. They ride faster than you can imagine, when one of their own is threatened. 2 days, maybe 3. And when they arrive, they will surround this place. They will demand you face judgment. Ka's hand rested on the window frame. 700 warriors, Silas Brennan. Maybe more. That is how many will come. For 1 daughter. For 2. She shook her head. The horizon, it will vanish beneath them. Behind them, Neshoba stirred, murmured something in her sleep. Ka returned to her side, instantly, checking the bandages, gentle, efficient. Silas stayed at the window, watching the shadows lengthen across the land he'd thought was his. The ranch that had been his sanctuary, the fence lines he'd ridden just that morning, when the biggest problem in his life was a broken post. And the silence. The eternal silence. Well, the silence was about to end, and when it did. Silas suspected it would end with the sound of hoofbeats. Hoofbeats like thunder, rolling across the desert floor. The hunter, Silas said. He didn't turn from the window. You said he wants proof of the kill. What kind of proof? Kay's silence was answer enough. Silas checked his rifle. It was leaning against the wall by the door, right where he'd left it that morning, fully loaded. He had ammunition in the cabinet, dried food in the cellar, water from the well, enough to last a siege if it came to that, but 700 warriors. They didn't lay siege. They didn't need to. Get some rest, Silas told Ka. Both of you. I'll keep watch. You think you can protect us? From Wade Colt train? Silas looked at her. He saw the doubt in her eyes, but it was mixed with something else, a desperate flicker of hope. I think I'm going to try, he said. That count for anything? Ka studied him. A long moment. It counts for something. She glanced at her sister. Whether it counts for enough, we will know by morning. Night fell fast, swallowing the desert in a darkness so thick it pressed against the windows, like a living thing. Silas settled into the chair by the door, rifle across his lap. He listened to the silence that wasn't peaceful anymore. Somewhere in that darkness, Wade Colt train followed blood, followed hoofprints, toward a ranch that held the proof he needed, and somewhere beyond that, 700 warriors prepared to riding toward a man who'd broken their most sacred law. Silas had saved a life today. Tomorrow. Tomorrow he'd learn just what that salvation was going to cost him. Dawn came gray and wrong. Silas felt it before he saw it. That pressure in the air, the kind that comes before a storm breaks, or before violence erupts. He dozed in the chair, woke with a stiff neck. Woke to find Ka standing at the eastern window. Her knife was drawn. "He is here," she whispered. Silas rose, quietly, took position at the opposite window. The land beyond looked empty, but emptiness could lie. He'd learned that lesson the hard way years ago. Then he saw it. Movement. A figure on horseback, maybe 400 yards out, walking the animal in slow circles, studying the ranch, calculating. "Wade Colt train," Ka said, hatred thick in her voice. "He killed my sister's horse first, made her run, tracked her, like prey, for sport. Before he finally took the shot. He alone? Yes. The others. They disagreed with his methods. He killed them too." Silas processed that. A man willing to kill his own partners. That was a man with no lines left to cross. Dangerous, in a way that went beyond simple violence. Wade moved closer, stopped just outside rifle range. He was a thin man, a face weathered by sun and cruelty, clothes that had seen better days, a hat pulled low. When he called out, his voice carried, clear across the desert floor. "The Apache women in there! I know you're listening!" A pause. "You killed my friends!" "I think that's worth something, don't you?" "Worth settling accounts?" Silas opened the door, just enough to be seen. Rifle held casual, but ready. "They're not interested in your accounts, Colt train." Wade's attention shifted. "Didn't know they had help. You the rancher? I'm the man telling you to ride on." "Can't do that. Got business to finish." Wade's hand, it rested on the revolver at his hip. "Business that don't concern you. Less you make it concern you. Already made my choice." Shame. Wade's expression, it didn't change a bit. "Thought maybe you were smarter than that." What happened next? Happened fast. Wade drew, firing even as Silas threw himself behind the doorframe. The bullet splintered wood, right where his head had been. Silas returned fire through the opening. His shot went wide, kicked up dust behind Wade's horse, but it was enough. Enough to make the hunter wheel away. Ka appeared at his shoulder. "He will circle. Try the back. There's no back door. Then he will try the windows. Or he will wait. Wait until we have to come out." Silas moved to check on Nishoba. She'd woken during the gunfire, eyes wide, with pain and fear. Ka spoke to her, rapid fire. Nishoba responded, weakly. Her eyes closed again. "She asks if you are hurt," Ka translated. "I'm fine. She should rest. She says, 'Thank you.'" Ka's voice softened. "Thank you for the help, for not running." She has never heard an outsider call someone worth saving. Before. Another shot. It rang out. This time it shattered the western window. Glass exploded inward. Silas dove for cover. Wade was moving, trying different angles, testing their defenses. "How much ammunition do you have?" Ka asked. "Enough for a fight, not enough for a war." "Then we need to end this, quickly." Silas looked at her. "You have a plan?" "I can move without being seen. I can reach him." "He'll kill you before you get close." "You do not know what I can do." Ka's eyes blazed. "I am not some helpless woman who needs protection. I am a warrior, trained since childhood. Trained to move like wind through grass. I don't doubt that, but he's expecting you to try exactly that." "Then what do you suggest?" Silas thought. "Weighing options. All of them ended badly. We make him think he's winning. Draw him closer. Then we both hit him. At once. You, trust me, to fight beside you? Don't have much choice, do I?" Something that might have been respect flickered across Ka's face. She moved to the back window. Silas returned to the front. They let the silence stretch. Let Wade think they were pinned down, frightened. Minutes passed. Then Wade called out again. "Running low on options in there. How about we make a deal? You give me what I came for. I let you walk away." Silas stayed quiet, watching through a crack in the door. Wade was closer now, maybe 200 yards, moving in, careful. "I got all day," Wade shouted. "You don't. Eventually, you'll need water from that well. Eventually, you'll need to move." 150 yards. Silas could make the shot now, but he needed certainty. No wounded animals. They just fought back harder. "Last chance." Wade's horse stepped over a low rise. "Come out peaceful." Ka exploded through the window, like fury given form. She hit the ground rolling, came up running. She closed the distance before Wade could even process what was happening. His revolver swung toward her, but Silas fired first. The bullet caught Wade's shoulder, spun him sideways. Ka reached him just as he fell from the horse. Her knife found his other arm, opened it deep enough to make him drop the gun. Wade screamed, scrambling backward, blood pouring from both wounds. "Stop!" Silas shouted, running forward. "Don't kill him!" Ka stood over Wade, her knife raised, every muscle tensed for the killing blow. "He would have butchered us, like animals." "I know, but if you kill him here, on my land, there'll be questions. People will come looking." Silas leveled his rifle, right at Wade's head. He leaves, bleeding, ashamed, and alive enough to spread the word that you're under protection. "Your protection means nothing." Wade spat blood. "You're a dead man, rancher. Both of you are. When the Apache find out you sheltered their daughters, they'll what?" Silas pressed the rifle barrel against Wade's forehead. "Tell me what they'll do." Wade's eyes widened as he understood. You don't know. You don't have any idea what you've done. Then enlighten me." She's not just some warrior." Wade gestured weakly toward Ka. "She's next in line for war chief." "And her sister?" He laughed. The sound was wet, broken. That girl is promised to the council elders. A spiritual vessel, untouched, sacred. And you put your hands on her. You stitched her flesh, like she was common." Silas felt ice spread through his chest. Ka's expression. It had gone carefully blank. 700 warriors, Wade continued, his voice gaining strength from the spite. "That's what they'll send. Maybe more. They'll surround this place, and they won't leave till you're judged by their law." He grinned through bloody teeth. "I would have made it quick. They won't." Silas stepped back, lowered the rifle. "Get on your horse. Ride till you can't see my land anymore. Come back, and I'll finish what Ka started." Wade struggled to his feet, clutching his wounded shoulder. He stumbled toward his horse, managed to mount despite the pain. He rode off. He looked back, one final time. "They're probably already coming, rancher. Probably felt it, the moment you touched her. Some things can't be undone." Wade kicked his horse, leaving blood drops in the sand. "Some things demand payment." Silas and Ka stood in silence, watching till Wade disappeared. Then Ka spoke. Her voice was hollow. "He is right. They will come. And when they arrive, there is nothing I can say. Nothing that will change what must happen." "What must happen?" "You will stand in the center of 700 warriors. My father will demand to know why you violated sacred law. And you will have to answer for your crime." Ka turned to face him. "The crime of saving my sister's life." They spent the rest of the day in a silence that was heavier than a tomb. Silas reinforced the broken window, boards from the barn, his hands working on their own, while his mind His mind calculated impossible odds. Ka stayed near Neshoba, changing bandages, offering water, speaking in low tones. Tones Silas couldn't understand, but he recognized them. They were the tones of comfort. By late afternoon, Neshoba's fever had broken. Color returned to her face, her eyes. They tracked movement, with clarity, not delirium. When Silas brought fresh water, she spoke, for the first time, in English. "You should not have helped us." Her voice was weak, but steady. "You should have been selfish." "Tried that once," Silas said. He set the water down, avoided her gaze. "Didn't take. Someone I loved. She was dying. I was too far away to help. By the time I got there, she was already gone." He paused. Been carrying that weight for years. Wasn't about to add more. Neshoba studied him. Her eyes. They seemed older than her years. "So you traded one weight for another. My life for yours. Maybe it won't come to that." "It will." No anger in her voice, just certainty. "My father, he follows the old ways, completely. He has no choice. To abandon tradition would be to abandon everything. Everything our people have fought to preserve." Ka approached, placed a hand on her sister's shoulder. "Rest now, save your strength." But Neshoba continued, her words coming faster, like she needed to say 'em, before her courage failed. "There is something you should know, Silas Brennan. Something about why so many will come. Your father, he's the spiritual leader. I understand." "No, you do not understand." Neshoba struggled to sit up. Ka protested, but Neshoba waved her off. "I am not. Just his daughter. I am the chosen vessel, the one designated to carry forward the sacred knowledge, to interpret the old signs, to guide our people. When he is gone." "You're a priest," Silas said. More than that. I am the link between our people and everything that came before. My body, it is considered holy ground. No outsider has touched me since I was marked for this path. At age 7, she looked down at the bandages around her torso. Until now. The implications settled over Silas like a shroud. "So when I stitched your wound, you committed the greatest violation our law recognizes. Not because you meant harm, because the law, it makes no distinction. No distinction between harm and help, when sacred boundaries are crossed." Ka turned away, her shoulders rigid. "I tried to stop him, Neshoba. I held my knife to his throat. And then, you let him help anyway," Neshoba said, softly. "Because you knew I would die. Because you chose my life over law." "The council will punish us both," Ka said. "They have to. To do anything less would destroy the foundation of everything we believe." Silas stood up, moved to the window, stared out at the desert that had seemed so peaceful, just yesterday. "How long? How long till they arrive?" "Tomorrow, maybe the day after." Ka joined him at the window. "My father, he will know something is wrong. When we did not return, he would have sent scouts. They will have found the bodies of Wade's companions. They will follow the trail here, and when they come, they will encircle this ranch. Every warrior, within 3 days' ride, will answer the call. 700 is the minimum required by tradition for a violation of this magnitude." Ka's reflection in the glass looked haunted. But for 2 daughters, for the future spiritual leader, and the future war chief, both. They will bring more. They will cover the land, like shadows. Night fell again, deeper than before. Silas took first watch. He sat in the darkness, rifle in hand, listening to Neshoba's steady breathing, listening to Ka's occasional movements. as she kept her own vigil. Around midnight, Ka spoke, from across the room. Why? Why do you live alone? Out here. Seemed safer than living with people. Was it? Was it safe? Silas considered the question. It was quiet. That counted for something. And now? Now I'm wondering if quiet was just another word for empty. Ka was silent for a moment. When they come, you could run. Take your horse, ride, before they arrive. They would not follow you. Their business is with us. Is that what you want me to do? What I want does not matter. What happens will happen, whether I wish it or not. Then I'll stay. Silas shifted in his chair. Figure I might as well see this through. You will die for us. You understand that? Maybe, or maybe. Maybe there's something else that happens. Something neither of us can see yet. Ka moved, sat across from him, her face barely visible in the darkness. You are either very brave or very foolish. Been called both. Never could figure out which one was true. My sister is right about one thing. You should have been selfish. Selfish men survive. Survive, Silas said, ain't the same as live. Ka studied him, a long, long moment. When my father arrives, he will ask why you did this. What will you tell him? The truth, that I saw someone dying, and I couldn't walk away. That will not be enough. It's all I have. Dawn approached, like a held breath. Silas stood at the eastern window. Gray light crept across the desert floor, revealing a landscape empty of everything, except sage and stone. But the emptiness felt temporary now, borrowed. Behind him, Nishoba stirred. They should arrive soon, she whispered. My father, he follows patterns. When we did not return, he would have sent scouts. Immediately, they would have found the bodies by yesterday. Tracked us here. How long does it take to gather that many warriors? They do not need to gather. The council meets in cycles. When we left, over 500 were already assembled. She looked at Silas, her eyes held. Sorrow. My father. He would send word to every nearby camp. They would ride through the night. Silas returned his gaze to the horizon. Nothing yet, but nothing could hide forever. Then, he saw it. A rider, cresting the distant ridge, then another, then 10 more. Kay, Silas said, quietly. She appeared at his shoulder. Her breath caught. The ridge. It filled with riders. Then it overflowed. They came like a flood. Across the high ground, hundreds of warriors, mounted on horses painted for ceremony, carrying weapons that caught the rising sun. They spread across the landscape, in perfect formation, moving with a precision that spoke of discipline and purpose. 700 warriors, maybe more, just as Ka had promised. And they were coming for Silas Brennan's ranch. They came in silence, a silence more terrible than any war cry. 700 warriors. They surrounded the ranch in concentric circles, each ring positioned with military precision. No one rushed forward, no one shouted threats. They simply took their positions and waited, creating a wall of flesh and determination that stretched to every horizon. Silas had never felt so small. The ranch that had seemed substantial just yesterday. Now, it looked like a child's toy, dropped in an ocean. His fences, his walls, his carefully built life, all of it, meaningless, against the force that had gathered. A single rider approached, from the center of the formation. He was older than the warriors around him, hair gone silver, a face lined by decades of sun and decisions. He wore no war paint, carried no visible weapons, but authority It radiated from him, like heat from stone. "My father," Ka whispered. The elder stopped, 30 feet from the door. When he spoke, his voice carried, clear, despite being barely raised above conversation. "I am Takakota, keeper of the old ways, guardian of the sacred path. I come, for my daughters." Silas opened the door, slowly, kept his hands visible, empty. "They're safe, both of them." Takakota's eyes. They scanned Silas, from head to boot, reading him, like text. "You are the one, called Silas Brennan. You live alone, on this land. You keep to yourself. You trouble no one." He paused. "Until yesterday. Yesterday. I found 2 women dying in the desert. And you, touched, the one marked sacred. You placed your hands upon flesh that has known no outsider's contact since childhood." No anger in Takakota's voice, just statement of fact. "You violated the most fundamental law of our people." Ka stepped through the door, stood beside Silas. Several warriors tensed, hands moving to weapons. But Takakota raised one hand, and the motion, it stopped. "Father, he saved Nishoba's life. She would have." "I know. What would have happened?" Takakota's expression. It softened, just fractionally, when he looked at his daughter. "I also know what did happen, and what must happen now." Nishoba appeared in the doorway, still weak, but standing on her own. The gathered warriors, they stirred, seeing her, alive. Murmurs rippled through the circles, like wind through grass. "The law is clear," Takakota continued. "An outsider, who touches a sacred vessel, must face judgment. The council will decide if the touch was made in malice or mercy. But either way, there must be accounting. So, you brought 700 warriors to judge one man?" Silas asked. Something flickered across Takakota's face, not quite a smile. "We brought 700 warriors because the law demands it. When a sacred vessel is compromised, we show the world that our traditions hold value, that our daughters are worth protecting." He gestured to the vast circle surrounding him. "This is not just about judgment, Silas Brennan. This is demonstration. Proof that we remain strong enough to enforce our laws, even when those laws bring us no pleasure. And if I refuse to be judged, then we will remain here. The circle will not break. No one enters, no one leaves. Eventually, thirst, or hunger, or time itself will force your hand." Takakota's voice remained gentle, almost kind. "There is no escape from this. Only the choice of how you face it." Silas looked at the faces surrounding him, young warriors, eager for glory, older ones, who'd seen too much to hunger for more violence, women, who watched with expressions he couldn't read, all of them, waiting for his decision. "What happens if I come with you?" "You will stand before the council. You will speak truth about what happened. The elders will deliberate." Takakota paused. "And then they will decide. Decide if your crime was great enough to require death, or if there is another way to balance the scales. What other way? That is not for me to say. The council holds wisdom, I merely serve." Nishoba stepped forward, still unsteady, but determined. "Father, he acted with honor. Without his help, I would be bones in the desert. I know, daughter. I also know that honor does not erase violation. The law exists for reasons deeper than individual circumstance." Takakota looked back at Silas. "Will you come? Voluntarily? Or must we take you?" The sun climbed higher, burning away the last of morning's mercy. Sweat ran down Silas's spine. His rifle. It leaned against the wall inside, loaded, ready. But what good was one rifle? Against 700? And somewhere, deeper than survival, Silas recognized something else. These people, they hadn't come screaming for his blood. They'd come following rules, rules older than his country. They'd come because their daughters mattered enough to mobilize an army. That kind of love, twisted through tradition, though it might be, it deserves something more than bullets. "I'll come," Silas said. Ka grabbed his arm. "You do not have to." "Yes," he said, "I do." He looked at her, then at Neshoba, finally, at Takakota. "I made a choice yesterday. Time to see what that choice costs." Takakota nodded, slowly. "You show courage. That will matter when judgment comes." 4 warriors approached, forming an escort. They didn't bind Silas, didn't treat him rough, but their presence, it made clear. There'd be no change in his mind now. They led him toward the center of the vast circle, the rings of warriors. They parted, creating a corridor. At the heart of the formation stood a space, cleared of everything, except sand and sun. The elders waited there. 5 men and women. They'd seen more seasons than Silas could count. They stood beside something that made his stomach tighten, a wooden post, driven deep into the ground, ropes, hanging from it, not for hanging, for binding, for holding someone in place. While judgment was pronounced, the warriors positioned Silas before the post, the circles. They tightened, pressing inward, until 700 faces surrounded him in every direction. Takakota walked, stood with the elders, his expression unreadable. Neshoba and Ka. They were brought forward, placed opposite Silas, across the open space, both sisters. They looked at him with expressions, mixing gratitude and grief. One of the elders stepped forward, an ancient woman, her eyes, they still blazed, with sharp intelligence. When she spoke, her voice carried to every warrior present. "We are gathered to judge the violation of sacred law. An outsider has touched the chosen vessel. Blood has mixed with blood. The boundary has been crossed." She paused, letting the silence build, like pressure before a storm. "Silas Brennan, you will now speak truth. Tell us why you committed this crime." Silas stood in the center of 700 warriors. He felt the weight of every single eye upon him. The sun beat down, no mercy. Sweat traced lines through the dust on his face when he spoke. His voice carried, clear, steady, despite the fear coiling in his gut. "I found them in the desert. One was bleeding out. The other was trying to save her, with nothing but determination and a knife." He met the elder woman's gaze, directly. "I offered water. I offered food. I offered help. When that wasn't enough, I brought them to my ranch. And I stitched the wound. That would have killed her." "You knew she was Apache," the elder said. It wasn't a question. "I knew she was dying. That's all that mattered." "Did they tell you who they were, what she represented?" "Not until after. By then, the choice was already made." Another elder stepped forward. A man, scars, crossing his chest, his arms. "You could have left them. You could have ridden past." "Why? Did you not?" Silas hesitated, searching for words that could bridge the gap between his truth and their law. "Years ago, someone I loved died. My wife. She was dying while I was too far away to help. Stuck miles away, trying to save a lost calf. By the time I got there, she was already gone. I've carried that weight every day since when I saw Neshoba bleedin' in the sand. I saw that moment again. The moment when doing nothing becomes something you can never undo. So, this was about your guilt, the scarred elder said, not about mercy. Maybe it started that way. But when I cleaned her wound, stitched her flesh, it stopped being about me. It became about her, about not letting another life slip away when I had the power to prevent it. Takakota spoke then, his voice thoughtful. You speak of power, but you had no power in that moment. You were one man, facing a choice that would bring 700 warriors to your door. Where is the power? In that, the power was in the choosing, Silas said, in deciding that her life mattered more than mine did. Murmurs, rippling through the gathered warriors, the elders, they conferred, low voices, speaking their language, too quick for Silas to catch. He saw gestures, disagreement, deep division, the scarred elder. He argued for one path, the ancient woman. She advocated for another, Takakota. He listened to both, his expression troubled. Finally, they reached consensus. The ancient woman raised her hand. Silence. She turned back to Silas. Silas Brennan, you have spoken truth. We acknowledge this. But truth does not erase violation. She gestured to Neshoba, standing pale, but upright, across from him. The law, protecting the sacred vessels, it exists for profound reasons. It ensures they remain untainted by the outside world, pure channels for the wisdom that sustains our people. When you touched her, you broke that protection. I understand. Do you? Do you truly understand what you have taken from us? The elder's voice sharpened. She was to enter the next phase of her training, unblemished. Now, she carries the mark of your hands upon her flesh. The scar you created, it will remain. Every time she stands before the council, every time she speaks for our ancestors, that scar will remind everyone that the sacred boundary was crossed. Neshoba stepped forward. A warrior tried to hold her back. She brushed him off. The scar reminds me that I am alive to speak at all. Without him, there would be no vessel, no channel, only bones and sand. Silence, daughter. Takakota's command. It was gentle, but absolute. This is not your judgment to make. The elders conferred again, heated. Silas caught fragments, division, finally. They stopped. The ancient woman turned back to Silas. The council has deliberated. Your crime is acknowledged. Your motivation is understood. But understanding does not negate consequence. She paused, letting the moment stretch. There are two paths before you now. The first is the traditional path. You are bound to the post. The sacred vessel's father delivers judgment with his own hand. Swift, final, absolute. Silas felt his throat go dry. And the second path? The second path has not been walked in 3 generations. It is the path of the blood brother, the outsider who proves himself worthy to stand among us, not as guest, but as one of our own. How? How is that proven? The scarred elder answered. Through trial, through sacrifice, through standing beside us, when everything you know is threatened. He gestured to the vast circle. We did not come here only to judge you. We came because danger follows our daughters. The hunter You sent away. He will return. Men like him. They always do. They gather others, like themselves. And they come back, hungry. For proof they can sell. Understanding, it crashed over Silas, like cold water. Wade Colt train. He's coming back. With others. We have scouts, positioned on every approach. They report, a group of 12 men, riding hard from the east. Mercenaries, bounty hunters. Drawn by the promise of Apache scalps. Takakota's voice was grim. They believe. They can strike fast. Take what they want. And vanish. Before we respond. They do not know. We are already here. You used yourselves as bait, Silas said. Slowly. You gathered 700 warriors, not just to judge me. You gathered them to protect your daughters from the attack you knew would come. We do not gamble. With our children's lives, the ancient woman's eyes glinted. But we also do not ignore opportunity when it presents itself. You chose to stand with our daughters. Once. Now, you will choose again. Stand with us against the men who come for blood. Fight as a brother fights. Prove that your hands touched sacred flesh in service of life, not violation. And, if I refuse, then you receive traditional judgment. The post, the rope, the blade. She gestured to the warriors. But if you fight, and if you survive, you will be offered something no outsider has received in generations. A place among us, not as guest, as family. Silas looked at Ka and Neshoba, both sisters, watching him. Hope, resignation, something in between. Then he looked at the horizon, to the east, dust, rising in the distance, Wade Colt train and his mercenaries, riding toward what they thought was easy prey, riding toward 700 warriors who had deliberately positioned themselves to intercept. When do they arrive? Silas asked. Within the hour, Takakota said. Will you fight beside us? Silas thought about his ranch, his quiet life, the years, spent alone, believing that safety lay in isolation. Then he thought about Neshoba's steady breathing. As the fever broke, he thought about Ka's fierce protection, about people who valued their daughters enough to bring an army. Tell me where you need me, Silas said. They positioned Silas on the western flank. The land rose slightly, gave him vantage. Over the approach, 50 warriors surrounded him, faces painted for combat, weapons ready. They didn't speak to him, but they didn't exclude him either. He was just there, another body, between the enemy and the daughters, who stood protected at the circle's heart. Ka appeared beside him. She checked his rifle, with an efficiency that understood weapons. You know how to use this in real combat? Well enough. Well enough. Gets you killed. When they come, you do not aim for center mass. You aim for the horse. A man on foot is slower, more vulnerable, easier to surround. She handed back his rifle, and you do not waste shots on heroics. Every bullet must count. You've done this before. Many times. Ka's jaw tightened. Men like Wade, they always think they can take what is not theirs. They always learn, otherwise. Too late. The dust cloud. It grew larger, resolving into individual riders. 12 men, just as the scouts reported. Wade rode at the front, his wounded shoulder wrapped, but his gun hand was free. The mercenaries behind him, they were the kind of hard cases who killed for money without troubling themselves over right or wrong. They saw the ranch first, exactly as expected. Then, they saw the circles of warriors, their horses. Slowed, Wade's voice carried, confused and angry. What in the... He never finished. Takakota stepped forward. From the center circle, his voice boomed with an authority that required no shouting. You have come, seeking death. We have come to provide it. Turn back now and live to see tomorrow. Continue forward, and we will show you why our people have survived every attempt to erase us. Wade's face, it twisted with rage and realization. You knew. We were coming. We knew men like you would come. We prepared accordingly. One of the mercenaries, braver or more foolish, raised his rifle. The shot echoed. The bullet went wide, kicked up sand, 10 feet from any warrior. What happened next? It happened with a precision that spoke of countless drills. The outer circle of warriors launched arrows in a coordinated wave, not wild shots, aimed fire. 3 horses went down, throwing their riders, hard, into the sand. More arrows followed, targeting the confused mass of mercenaries who suddenly realized they'd ridden into a trap. Wade wheeled his horse, shouting orders his men couldn't hear. Over their own panic, they scattered, trying to break through the circle, searching for weakness in a formation that had none. Silas fired, dropped a mercenary's horse, just as Ka had instructed. The man hit the ground and was immediately surrounded. Warriors disarmed him with brutal efficiency. Another mercenary tried to bull through the line and was pulled right from his saddle by hands that appeared from nowhere. Wade. He spurred his horse toward the ranch, thinking he could hold him off, but warriors, they flowed around him like water around stone, cutting off every path. His horse reared, spooked. Wade barely kept his seat. Silas saw the moment Wade recognized him. The hunter's face, contorted, hatred, disbelief. You're with them. I'm with the people. You tried to murder. Wade drew his revolver, but Ka was faster. Her knife, it left her hand, in a blur, catching Wade's gun arm, sinking deep into the muscle. The revolver dropped. Wade screamed, clutching his arm. His horse bolted. Warriors closed in, not to kill, to capture. They pulled Wade from his saddle, same efficiency, binding his hands. Despite his struggles, his curses, the fight, it was over. In minutes, 12 mercenaries had ridden in. 5 were wounded, their horses dead. 7 sat bound in the sand, surrounded by warriors who watched them with expressions that promised violence. If they even twitched, not one warrior had been injured. Not one shot had found its mark. Takakota walked among the captured men, studying each face with disgust. When he reached Wade, he spoke, clear, so all could hear. You came for my daughters. You believed them, weak, vulnerable, easy prey. He gestured to the circle of warriors. Instead, you found what every enemy of our people finds, that we protect our own with a strength that cannot be broken, that we do not forgive those who hunt our children. Wade spat blood. They'll hang you for this. Kill American citizens, and the army will. The army will find 12 men who attacked a peaceful gathering and were defeated without mercy. Takakota's voice went cold. Your bodies will serve as a message. Hunt our people, and this is your reward. Silas stepped forward. Wait. Takakota turned. You object? I object. to making you into what they already believe you are. Silas looked at Wade, at the other captives. You execute them. You prove every lie ever told about your people. You let them go. You prove something harder. That mercy is not weakness. That justice doesn't require blood. The elders, they conferred again, the scarred elder. He argued for execution, but the ancient woman, she listened to Silas with thoughtful attention. Finally, she spoke. You have fought beside us, proven yourself worthy of consideration. But you ask us to show mercy to men who would show us none. I'm asking you to be better than them, to show that your law is about protection, not revenge. Takakota studied Silas a long, long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Take their weapons. Strip them of everything except water. Send them east, on foot. He looked at Wade, eyes like stone. And if they return, mercy will not be offered. Twice. The warriors moved, dragging the protesting mercenaries to their feet. Wade. He locked eyes with Silas as he was pulled away. You made a mistake, rancher. You chose the wrong side. No, Silas said, quietly. I finally chose right. As the mercenaries disappeared, walking slow, under the merciless sun, Takakota placed a hand on Silas's shoulder. You have passed the first trial. Now comes the second. The choice. That will define everything. The circle of warriors remained. The sun climbed toward noon. Silas stood before the elders once more. This time, the weight on his shoulders. It felt different. Not the crushing pressure of judgment. Something else. Something that felt almost like belonging. The ancient woman stepped forward. The vast gathering fell silent. Silas Brennan, you have fought beside us. You have shown mercy when blood was expected. You have proven that your hands touched sacred flesh in service of life. Not violation. She paused, letting her words settle. The council has reached its decision. Silas's heart hammered, but he kept his expression steady. You cannot undo what was done, she continued. The sacred vessel bears your mark. The law was broken. But law exists to protect life, not to punish those who preserve it. She gestured to Neshoba, who stood stronger now, color fully returned. She lives because you chose her life over your safety. That choice has a value that outweighs violation. Takakota moved, stood beside the elder. There is a way forward. An old tradition, rarely used, but never forgotten. We can name you brother of the blood, not through birth, but through the bond created when you placed our daughter's survival above your own. What? What does that mean? Silas asked. It means you will always have a place at our fires. It means our warriors will answer if you call for aid. It means the boundary between outsider and family is crossed permanently. Takakota's expression was serious. But it also means you carry responsibility. You must understand our ways, respect our laws, stand as a bridge between your people and ours. And if I accept, then you cease to be the man who violated sacred law. You become the man who saved a daughter and earned his place through courage and mercy. The ancient woman's eyes, they held approval. You become proof that outsiders can be more than enemies. That understanding is possible, even across the deepest divides. Silas looked at the 700 warriors, all of 'em, watching him, watching to see what he would choose. Then he looked at Ka and Nishoba, standing together, just like they had, in the desert, two sisters, who had survived, 'cause he couldn't ride past. "I accept," Silas said. The warriors, they erupted, voices, raised together, not celebration, acknowledgement, recognition, Takakota. He clasped Silas's forearm, the grip of equals, and the gesture. It spread. Warriors approached, one by one, offering the same grip, the same acceptance. Nishoba. She came to him last, moving carefully, but under her own power. She took his hand, in both of hers, spoke clear, so all could hear. "You gave me life. When death reached for me, I will carry your mark, as a reminder that boundaries exist to protect, not to imprison, that sometimes the greatest act of faith is extending a hand to a stranger." Ka stood beside her sister, and for the first time, since they'd met, she smiled. "You are irritatingly stubborn, Silas Brennan. But that stubbornness saved my sister. For that, you have my gratitude, and my blade, if you ever need it." The circles, they began to disperse, warriors, mountain horses, preparing for the journey back, but they didn't leave in haste or defeat. They left, with purpose fulfilled. The daughters were safe, the enemy was scattered, justice had been served, in a way that preserved, rather than destroyed. Takakota remained, after most had gone, standing with Silas, watching the horizon, swallow the last of the riders. "The quietness you sought on this land," he said, "it is gone now. You have become known to us. Others will hear the story. Your life will be different." "Different isn't always worse," Silas said. "No, not always." Takakota turned to face him. "You will be welcome in our territories. But, I suspect, you will stay here. On this land. You built. With your own hands. It's home. Then make it. A good one. Strong walls and open doors. A place where strangers in need know they can find help." Takakota clasped his arm, once more. "That is the responsibility of a blood brother, to be the hand extended, the bridge built, the proof that mercy is not weakness." As Takakota rode away to join his daughters, Silas stood alone in front of his ranch. The broken window needed repair. The fence still wanted mending. Nothing about the physical place had changed, but everything else had. He had found two women dying in the desert. He had chosen to help. That choice had brought 700 warriors to his door, had brought judgment and trial and the very real possibility of death. But it had also brought something else, something he hadn't known. He was missing. Connection, purpose, the understanding. That isolation was not safety. It was just another kind of death, slower, but no less final. Silas picked up his tools, walked toward the broken fence. The work was the same as it had always been. But the man doing it, he was different now. Not just a rancher, a blood brother, a bridge, a man who had learned that the greatest risk is sometimes the only path to redemption. Some debts, they can be measured in gold or gratitude. Others can only be measured in the person you become, when you're forced to choose between your safety and their salvation. Silas had made his choice, and he would live with it, knowing that 700 warriors had come not to destroy him, but to witness the moment. An outsider. Became family. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. And if you have a story of a debt that couldn't be paid in gold, let us know down in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.